Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Emma Cownley. I'm a freelance copywriter and blogger, and I'm also successfully pulling off pigtails as a woman in her mid-30s. Debatable. Today I'm answering another question that has been submitted by viewers. I have been asked to go over how to structure a blog post and how to approach kind of blogging best practice. So I'm going to kind of cover off some of the details here. More particularly, I'm going to be talking about things that I do and things that I have found are the most successful. But I will preface this by saying that every single client is different, every single readership is different, every single blog is different, right? So really, I would encourage you to really look at the data for each individual client that you are blogging for, and if you're blogging for yourself, go back to the SEO, have a look at what's been performing really well, and kind of try to look at what were the topics that were interesting, what were the keywords that were targeted, how long was the post, how is it promoted, all that good stuff, because it will be different. There is no kind of set formula. Having said that, there are things that I try to do consecutively with every blog post that I write, so I'm going to go over it here today. Before I give away the goodies, I'll ask you to do a little something for me. I'd love it if you could like this video and maybe even subscribe to me, because YouTube analytics tells me that 64% of my viewers are not yet subscribed, and funnily enough, most of you seem to be American. If you're American, leave me a comment. So let's start with the ideal blog post length. If you Google this, you'll find a lot of different articles proclaiming that they know the best blog post length. It's 2,500 words or whatever. Further research into very, very credible sources has led me to believe that there actually is no ideal length for a blog post. And really, if you try to regularly write 2,500 words, it's a big ask. It's a really big ask. And as I said before, it's different for every single client. So here's how I like to come at blog post length. So I typically price my blog posts in the circa 500, 700 word lump, and then 1,000 to 500 word lump. Those are typically the two word count ranges I go between. A nice short little 500, 700 word piece, or something a bit bigger at 1,000, 1,500 words. And I've priced it this way because this is what clients seem to be asking for. So usually my word count is dictated by the client brief. Now, if it's a new client, I do tend to kind of question this and say, oh, why have you chosen that? Like, are you finding that this works for you? And again, if it's a new client, I will typically ask for data on how their blog is performing so that I can figure out the kind of solution that's going to work best to grab and keep that readership and really get the SEO going. But circling back to what I was initially trying to say before I went off on a tangent as per usual, I don't really think that there is an ideal word count for a blog post. It's as long as it needs to be. Do you know what I mean? If you've thoroughly covered off the topic, hit all of the points that you need to hit in a concise way that still kind of engages and gives as much information as it needs to give, then that's as long as the blog post is. Not very helpful, but that's that on that. Now we're going to get into the real meat of the post, and that is how to properly structure a blog post. I tend to follow the same kind of format for each post that I write, so I'll give you that format here, but again, you're going to want to tweak it and kind of change it as to what suits the particular client you're writing for, the particular readership you're writing for, and the particular subject matter that you're writing for. So please bear that in mind when you hear these tips. You're going to have to kind of customize it. I always like to start with a really provocative, catchy intro line. It's going to be, I'm going to use all of my best kind of email subject line tricks for this. I'm going to really engage people. I'm going to use all the words that I know really trigger an engaging, kind of interested, something that's going to pique someone's interest when they read it. kind of maybe sometimes, depending on who I'm writing for, if I'm writing for Metal Hammer, I like to write something really inflammatory or really kind of ostentatious. So people are like,
what the fuck?
and then they feel like they want to keep reading. I'll put an example up on the screen now of one that I think has done particularly well. And the reason I use Metal Hammer as an example of this is because the readership and the way that the content is used is online. It's used via social media. So I need to grab people and get them reading, because people that come to Metal Hammer are typically reading for leisure. So you want to really tickle their fancy from the word go, grab them in that intro line and really kind of pull them through the text and keep them reading, because if you can't engage them from the jump, you will lose them. Then I'm going to give a brief introduction to the topic in the introduction section. So you've got your sexy little hook, and then that kind of leads on through, oh, because of this, blah, 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 so that people understand the premise of what we're going to be talking about here today. Then I'm going to do what I like to call a lead-in line, which is kind of the last piece of the introduction, and that seeds all the benefits that the reader is going to get if they keep on reading the article. So I'm going to say, oh, you might have thought this, but you're going to be surprised by the end of this article, or there's certain things that you think you know, but you might. So they're like, fuck, what don't I know? What are you going to tell me? What little nuggets are you going to be dropping in this article? I have to keep reading. I must know. The lead-in line. And it also functions as a segue into my first kind of subheader, buff. So I'm setting up the premise, and then I'm going to cover it off systematically with a list of points below, and then give my summary. Which leads me on to the next section. Subheaders. Now there is a cheeky little cheat that you can do for your subheaders, and that all depends on what your keywords are. Obviously, I like to type the query or the main query that I think anyone who wants to read this will be searching on Google. Did I phrase that badly? I think I might have. So let's do an example. We are writing about the best microphones to use for vlogging. People that want to know about microphones for vlogging are probably going to go to Google and saying, what's the best microphone to buy for vlogging? That's what they're looking for. And the articles that they get served are going to give them information on that, right? So I'm like, I'm going to type that into Google, pretend that I'm the customer or the reader, for example. Then I'm going to go and I'm going to look at all the related search queries that Google has listed out for me. That is what people searching for this topic are also asking. These are things they also need to know, so it makes sense to pick those out, put them in my article, and list those off as well, obviously where appropriate, because that's what people want to know about who are looking for this article, and we need to make this piece so efficient at delivering valuable information. So we're going to go grab out those subtitles and use those to flesh out the article to make sure we are just covering off exactly what people are looking for. As I mentioned, we're going to finish this all with a nice little summary and, most importantly, a call to action. So what are we asking them to do at the end of this article? Because if we're not asking them to do anything, that strikes me as being a wasted opportunity. So have we mentioned a bunch of products in the article that are already listed on this website that we're on? Great. Say, go and have a look at the shop. Got any questions about what we've talked about? Get in touch. Here's the, put a little link there. Get in touch with us and ask us a question. Go to the FAQs page. Find us on Twitter. Whatever it is that feels most appropriate for that article. Always be asking them to do something or engage in some way at the end of the article. So summary and CTA at the end. That is your little blog structure right there. I shall put it on the screen for you to see. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, drop a fucking like. Be a friend. If you've got any of your own tips for how to structure a blog post, leave a comment in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you and how you like to do things, because as I said, this is just how I roll when it comes to blogging. If you've got any questions, you can find me on Twitter at EJCownley, or even if you just want to be friends. I recently got a bird feeder, so that shit's popping off over on my Twitter. And with that, I'll see you back here, same time, same place, in 2 weeks for more Kiss My A's. Take care and peace out.